questions? Unfortunately, my computer is not cooperating. I can't seem to load anything right now other than what I had open. Do you have the packet printed out?
I do. Would you
The
like
one
it?
time I don't have paper, or the only time I need
Oh,
paper.
Greg, I was gonna give you mine.
Oh.
So she can.
Oh, yeah, why don't you keep that?
All right.
If you want to sit here, if you don't go.
You want me to sit with you?
Well, if you want to see it, but thank you. Yeah, so as I think the first page kind of explains, so that's more donation, okay, wrong sheet. So we included the draft resolution for like what would be on the council agenda, because I think that's kind of, because all the whereas is we kind of want to just lay out the timeline. It's kind of a complicated project. There's a whole bunch of funding sources and codes that are used. So we're, I would say, about the midway point, maybe a little bit past the midway point in the project. Obviously, the transit hub and the parking lot and the stair tower are still under construction. Market Street, Water Street are pretty much done. There's still some work being done out there on those, but they're substantially complete, just about. So we have a much better idea of what the costs have been, obviously, so far, what change orders there have been, and where we're headed. When we last discussed the budget for this project, it was, well, when we first set it up, it was just about this time of year, December of last year. We established the budget, we awarded all the construction contracts, design had been done at that point, and we set up a budget similar to what you're looking at now. It didn't have the codes next to it, but Water Street, Market Street, transit hub, stair and elevator tower, parking garage demolition, and parking lot, that's how we're separating the costs on the project. There's a difference in, some of the contracts are single contractors working on Water Street, transit hub, and the stair and elevator tower, but for the purposes of funding, it's broken down this way. So we have each building has its own costs associated with it, and then we can record that for historical purposes, and also with transit, there's transit funding versus general funding. So we don't anticipate going over budget in this project. We're still well over $1 million under budget in our projections right now. Obviously, changes happen. They have happened over the course of the project. We've added costs. We've also reduced some costs in some cases. We're out of the ground for the most part now. There's maybe a little bit more excavation work on the site, Chris. I'm not quite certain about the transit hub, but so for the most part, unknowns are known at this point, and it's really a matter of putting the building up and completing all of the surface work. So we wouldn't anticipate a whole lot of other changes. Most of the changes that have happened have been related to Water Street, Market Street, Chestnut Extension, like on the ground, on the street kind of changes. So understanding that, we're looking at just shuffling our budgets around. We have these different codes. We don't anticipate the total amount to be over what we originally budgeted, but we have some projects, for instance, Water Street improvements. I think our original budget for that, I don't have it right in front of me, was a little bit less than the $894 we're showing now. Something like the stair and elevator tower was higher, and now we're reducing that, I believe. So again, just shuffling things around. And these first 5 here in the appropriations, that includes obviously the work for Water Street, its construction, but it also includes the relevant applicable design costs for that and any other special inspections and that kind of stuff. And then the revenues on the bottom, that just shows the sources of funds. There's state aid touring route funds. That's $500,000 we dedicated from that annual levy we get through DOT. State aid other transportation, Jenny, help me out, I believe that is
It could
the
be
DOT
it could be DOT,
funding
yes.
for transit. So the $1 million, we had a $9 million grant, well, it's really an $8 million grant from FTA and a $1 million grant from DOT for transit purposes only. And then the city has to match $1 million, so that's what makes up the $10 million. We also have $463,000 in state funding that we get every year,
It's the
typically.
ATC money.
It's accelerated transit capital. That goes toward our local match. So realistically, the minimum local match that we need to have for the transit purposes is, what's $1 million minus 463, 537, right, Jenny? So we would expect to spend that much on the transit hub from the city general fund. The rest of the city's general fund, and it might be more depending on how things work out. Maybe it's closer to $1 million. That I'm not certain about that. But the serial bonds, $7.5 million, that's the city's contribution up to that amount. It's been authorized. We're hoping to come in less than that. Right now, we're over $1 million less than that. So unless we have $1 million worth of change orders between now and the end of the project, which I would not anticipate. Looking at you, Chris, you're not shaking your head, so.
Sorry.
No, we're not, no reason to expect that we're gonna have another $1 million worth of change orders on this project.
No.
So I think, it's pretty safe to say we're gonna come in under budget, which is good. We wanna minimize the amount we have to bond. Moving down, so the state aid economic assistance, that's made up of a few different sources. There's the DRI funding from ESD, the DRI funding from DOS, and there may be another, I think that may be it. And then the state aid other home and community services, $299,000, that was the DEC grant we got for the charging stations, so that will fund any costs related to electric vehicle charging stations. We don't anticipate spending maybe half of that, so we'll only get the revenue that, to cover the costs. So if we spend $150,000, we'll get reimbursed $150, not $299. But we have up to that amount. And then the last one, the federal aid, other transportation, the 8.5 is from the FTA. So there was a $8 million grant. There was also a $520,000 grant related to design. So all told, it's really not changing the overall cost of the project or the budget. It's just shifting things around. Then the other piece of the motion or the resolution, in addition to adjusting the budget, we have our change order policy where anything that is within the budget but over 10% of the original contract amount comes to finance for a review. And we've had a few of those instances. I think when we had the Trefson plumbing contract, we added the fire protection work to that, so we brought that through here. But for the most part, these contracts are pretty big. We've had some change orders, but they've been under 10%. So there's probably 30 smaller change orders or so that we've approved that haven't had to come through the committee or to the council level because it's within that budget and it's under the 10% amount for that particular contract. The case of Wendell, we originally hired them for $1.9 million in 2022 based on a very different scope of work than what we have now. Obviously, what happened since then, we had discussions about parking garage. Eventually that was determined that needs to come down. We're gonna, rebuild the parking lot. So that kind of did some redesign. So their design costs, we knew were gonna be higher than what we originally anticipated. And then based on our experience so far, and we can kind of project where we think we're gonna be with construction administration and observation. Those costs, again, Market Street wasn't designed at all when we first hired Wendell. It was included in their scope of work to design it. But we didn't have a good handle on how much construction observation time that was gonna take. So that wasn't even included in there. We understood that was gonna be an adder later on. So when we ordered the contract a year ago, we were figuring around $2.5 million. Now with updated costs and looking at things, we're closer, just above $3,058,000. So they've submitted an invoice recently that outlines the updated overall fee estimate. So for that contract, we need to modify the contract. We need council approval for that. That's why it's included in the resolution. So it's basically those two things: adjusting the overall project budgets, how it's spread amongst the different codes, and adjusting Wendell's contract. Judy?
I heard from Liz today.
Oh.
Can I just get that update?
Yeah.
Okay, so the $3,058,000 right now is an estimate for the transit hub construction administration and observation. So we're not sure where that's going to fall. There's a good estimate on it. So we're expecting that the only thing, hopefully that the only thing that may go up is going to be the lodging for the construction people to be here. The reimbursables, they call them reimbursable expenses. So that number will change, but we don't have that now because we just can't predict it for the future. So we may be coming back again with another updated number towards the end of the project, and which will hopefully be midsummer next year.
Okay, so it's,
Does construction continue through the winter?
Yeah, to an extent that they can. I'm not sure exactly what their schedule looks like the next couple of months. Chris, I think you might have a good idea. Do I?
I think it's weather permitting,
Yeah.
so maybe they get the building envelope up, they can work on the inside, so depends on when the weather hits us or doesn't. We're gonna continue to work as long as weather allows.
Excellent.
And because this was such a detailed budget, we wrote a resolution instead of just a motion to take the council and the public through all the steps that we can.
So that,
with this,
With the resolution, did you see the
Right.
resolution?
yes, it's very helpful.
and so the table is kind of just showing what's on the resolution. I mean, the initial table, I don't know if you guys have seen
Yeah, I
this
do
tonight,
have
but
it. Yes.
the first table is kind of what we shared back in July. I think it was the last time we shared this table. I mean, it shows our original budget for each of these different codes, and then the total down here, and then it shows our projected costs. So these are our current projected costs, 807, 5.85, whatever. And then it shows based on our current adopted budget minus projected costs, what is our contingency? So in the Water Street case, it's negative because we need to shift some money over to Water Street. So that's what we're basically trying to correct is the distribution of the money across here. So then you move it down here, say like what's our suggested revised budget, the 894, the 5,970, that's what's included in the resolution. The projected costs are the same, we have our current projections. And that's not just current incurred costs, it's what we expect to pay total. And then a revised contingency. So obviously we have $1,082,000 right now that has not been, dedicated to a particular task that would be available for changes or savings.
And what we're doing with Wendell, just so you know, we're allocating their engineering, architectural, and construction, observation, administration costs based on the total cost of every individual project. So, say the transit hub is 50%, then 50% of Wendell will go to the transit hub. Say Market Street is 13%, 13% of Wendell will go to Water Street. So we're allocating it based on the total projects, unless they have specifically identified something that relates to their project, which they have done. So it's just, that's why the numbers will constantly change.
Yeah. Okay. Just to clarify, the Market Street project is under budget, is that what you were just saying?
The overall.
Overall.
Yeah, everything, the 23 million, which is all the
Is
projects.
Is under budget at the moment. Even though there's been a slight adjustment with Wendell, there's been an increase there, but not.
Yeah, the increase there is related to their design costs having been
Right.
higher than back in 2022 when we hired them, when we anticipated them because of all the changes, the different directions we went in, and then also the construction oversight administration, on-site inspectors.
Mhm. Okay. Any comments or
No.
questions? Okay, I just wanted to clarify. So, is there any sort of, tradition in having this on the consent versus discussion agenda?
Not particularly, I mean,
Not
if you have no major questions or don't see a need for council discussion, you can put it on consent.
I'm just wondering if it should be discussion because it is a resolution, although.
And it does involve a lot of money, wouldn't hurt to have it under discussion.
Yeah.
But again, whatever we usually do is fine with me.
Yeah.
Really up to your judgment, if you feel like someone's gonna wanna discuss it.
Well, we said that they would have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the,
Well, if you put it in consent, you don't have to read it.
That's right,
Unless
you're
it gets
right.
pulled.
You're absolutely right, unless
If it gets
people
pulled,
still
if
have a
it
chance
gets-
to pull it.
Yeah, someone
Yeah, so I
pull
think,
it.
I actually think following that reasoning, I think we'll move it to consent, and then if somebody has questions, they can ask them at the meeting. Yeah,
I found
But
out
thank you
sitting in
for
that
that. That
chair,
was really
less you have to read, the better it is.
absolutely, yeah. For everybody. So I think our second to last item is the donation acceptance for the,
Museum, right?
yep, for the house.
Mm-hmm. How much is that? The donation.
88,000. Almost 89,000.
This is to help the barn or the?
Swart Wilcox House.
They have not designated it for the barn yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the donor, it's a bequest from an estate, so the donor is not gonna be weighing in on specifics, but it basically just says Swart Wilcox House Museum, so I think would you say it could be used for any Swart Wilcox museum purpose? If the barn is considered part of that, then I would say yes. But really,
I
the
didn't know
Swart
if this-
Wilcox group will have to.
I didn't know if this was back to
Yeah.
what they were trying to fundraise. I didn't get a chance to read
Yeah,
the last one, so.
they were doing the fundraising
talk with them, yeah, I haven't, so.
Correct. Yeah, and, what we have to restrict the money for is according to what the will says.
Yeah.
And the will does not designate it to the barn, so when we accept it, it will just be for the use of the Swart Wilcox House Museum.
Sounds good,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay. So why don't we move that if there's no further questions?
That can go to consent.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so we have an additional, discussion item from Chief Knapp. And it's not on the agenda. So I'm not sure, I haven't had time to necessarily digest the letter yet. So I didn't know if anybody had questions for Chief, or if we wanted to kind of maybe postpone this discussion, or kind of what you,
Maybe the
as a
chief could
committee
just
thought.
summarize what he's asking.
okay?
So basically, I approached Greg last year because I felt that the salary study undervalued let me take a step back. I feel that the salary that was assigned to the chief's position was undervalued according to the salary study and some other work that I did. So I communicated with Greg last year about that. Obviously, I didn't get the raise that I felt, that the chief's position deserves. So I followed up again this year with that same concern. You'll see an attached email of basically what I had requested. And once again, it has, been denied. So I understand that we're in a difficult position as far as, next year, as far as the budget. But like I always do, I came up with a solution, and I came up with additional revenue to cover the expense. So all I'm asking is for you guys to look at all the supporting documents and make a determination, yay or nay, but I just want you guys to be aware where I currently stand, so that there's no surprises in the future.
Okay. So you would like the committee here to take into account your presentation here and possibly move your request to the council?
Yes.
Okay. That's what you're seeking from
I'm
us?
putting it in as a correspondence from me to you guys, so.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And then there's, if you look at your email, there's supporting documents. Basically, I made it easy for you. You can just click on the salary study, so you don't have to go searching for it, so you can
Yeah.
compare the salaries and stuff, so.
Okay. Any points here that you'd like to add,
Well,
or?
So if it goes to the full council is what you're requesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that we would, as a council, take up
Yeah.
the concerns here.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott, do you have any?
No, because we just reseeded this, right? I think I saw it,
I just received it.
just trying to,
It's lengthy, sorry.
because I sent out an email and you sent yours right afterwards. I didn't get a chance to read it, so I apologize.
So the question is whether or not, we're gonna carry this to the council.
Well, the administrative manual stuff's going up, right? To the council?
Sorry,
The administrative stuff's going up to the council, right?
administrative stuff.
The administrative manual?
Yes, the personnel matter, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean, there's some things in here I don't agree with. I mean, we all know where I stand on residence requirements for department heads. I'll just be honest with you, that one, I think department heads should live in the city, I've always said that, that's where I've always stood on that.
yeah.
You can't take you can't take your fire chief's car home now?
I can, but if it would be a question if you were to allow me to
there's a lot to digest. Did this go to the whole council or just us?
Just us. And it's our recommendation or not to move it to council.
Just to add context to the whole farm thing and the residency, my wife and I, before I was promoted to chief, had bought a farm with the intention of moving up there, not knowing that the chief's position was gonna be right around the corner. So I have maintained two residences this entire time at a financial burden to myself. So that's where my family wants to be, so that's also part of my decision-making process, and moving forward.
Where's the farm?
It's in the town of Merrill, I believe it's a little over 12 miles away, so it's relatively quick to get back, especially if you have red lights inside.
Unless you got 6 inches of snow, then it's not so quick.
And
That's true.
and squalls on 88.
Listen, I understand I'm putting you guys in a difficult spot here. I get it with the budget. Just you need to understand where I'm currently in my life, and the timing sucks for me, but
But this sounds like it's all or nothing. You want everything that you wrote to us, or
it would be a package.
Yeah.
I don't think taking a vehicle home is a council policy, is it? Or isn't that something to fall underneath your preview?
There's an internal policy, it's an old one that's not very long, that states, I believe, who takes a vehicle home. Could be something that could be reconsidered. It's not a council policy right now, it could be, it's been an internal policy, as far as I know, as long as I've been here. It's been revised once, at least that I know of, since I've been here, before I was in this role.
I don't know. I've been a big supporter of not wanting to lose the chief, but on the same token, I've also have residents of the city that I have to really think about. And they're, down in my ward, it's always been, you're a department head, you should live in the city. That's,
So the question is, not only for us to discuss these terms, but also, do we include the council, broader council in the discussion?
Considering the seriousness of it, probably the whole council should weigh in.
In the context of the budget
Yeah,
discussion as well.
and I think that we should discuss it after the budget vote.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I mean, that's kinda why you have a committee, is to try to flush this stuff out.
It's
instead of
true.
putting up.
That's
Mhm.
true.
So, I mean, nothing says that if we can't go back, I know, Jenny's, I see Jenny get ready to throw something at me. Nothing says that if we do this after we pass the budget, that we can't adjust the salary if that's
That's
what we
right.
chose
That's
to do
true.
later.
Yeah, as I said to you Tuesday night, you can make any changes
That's right.
after you adopt the budget.
Yeah. So what is your suggestion then? Are you agreeing with Dawn?
I don't know, I just,
Not to put you on the spot, but just to get clarity.
it's not, I mean, it's in the charter. I don't have a charter for me out here. Got all the time in my glasses in the car.
Are you looking up residency requirement?
I think that's in the charter, isn't it, Greg? The fire chief.
It might be in the code, not in the charter. I mean, it's the 5 mile.
I can help with that if you'd like me to.
Do you know that?
Yes, so,
Okay.
Residency, when it comes to by position, is defined as public officers. So you're talking the clerk, Greg, Jenny, their deputies, those are the folks that are required based on their position. So I believe the chief's not an officer, I don't believe, I think that
serious thing that the council should discuss. I
Okay.
mean, I don't want just the three of us make a decision on this.
Right. Okay. I hear your input. The question then becomes perhaps one of timing, if we were to introduce this to the broader council. Your suggestion, Don, is to do so after the budget, is that,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah, I'd like to, all personnel decisions after the budget.
Any follow-up? I guess I don't have a problem talking about this in tandem with the budget. And I also don't have a problem having this introduced to the broader council myself. And opening this up past the committee, but Scott, you're kind of the deciding vote here. If you think it's not worth moving up, then we can have a relook.
I guess I'm not understanding, when you say after the budget, you talking the same meeting on Tuesday, or are you talking about a different meeting on a different Tuesday?
I think you're thinking January? Are you thinking like post-budget finalized?
I think it would be best to do it that way, that's what I was thinking, but, because I don't know how long the meeting is gonna go, and if people are really tired, you know, maybe they don't have a clear focus.
Chief, a couple weeks either way, gonna hurt you to, you know,
So that's okay, a couple of weeks.
I'm on it.
you would think as much as I was in this charter, I could remember it, and I can't, save my life. So I thought there was something that was spelled out, what who the officers are considered in the charter, and I can't.
There is a section.
You're probably right, Dave. I'm not down with Dave, I'm just,
I can't remember what part of the chart.
but then again, we changed the old charter to this one,
I know.
so. I'll give us some time to look into some of the stuff you're asking for. And then we can maybe, I get it, I understand it.
Can I just throw one thing that you're all gonna need to consider and probably updating the policy? Use of city vehicles being taken home, and not just for the chief, but for any city employee. If the vehicle is used in any way for personal services, so if they stop at Walmart on the way home, things like that, then we end up with IRS regulations that we have to deal with. So I'd like you to consider when you update the city vehicle policy, that you keep in mind to try to keep it in a tax exempt situation, so we don't have to start reporting that on their W-2s.
I'm not saying update the policy, I was just trying to figure out if that was a council thing, or if that should be more of a city administrator thing.
Because use of a company
Or
vehicle is a
combination
tax
thereof.
infringement. And I would just hate to have to start doing that,
Cause I remember when I was growing up, a lot of people used to take the vehicles home, and then all of a sudden the city council made some decision to stop it, doing that. And I thought the fire chief could use it, the police chief could use it, and I think there was one other one I thought. But then again, I think I was like 12 years old when they did this. So.
This is city council folks?
Yeah, it was a council, yeah. Yeah, I would do that for the budget. That could also give us some time to research some stuff, ask some questions, have some more documented.
Okay.
Give me a chance to look at the salary study. I'll be honest with you, chief, I didn't have a chance to look at what you sent. So, I saw like 105 and 109 thing, and as I was going through on my phone, but I can't really read off my phone that good, so.
Appreciate
And just to be
your
clear-
advices.
And just to be clear, in terms of HR that the council is able to offer an approval in terms of salary increase and the various terms that are requested, even though the city administrator has denied those requests. That seems
Yeah.
funny to me, but
The, Greg,
I can respond to that. I mean, so,
Yeah.
you know, it's not up to me to set salaries, it's up to the council to approve salaries. That's why we have to vote on those, like collective bargaining agreement, you're approving them ahead of time and then we fill them. Oh, you're still passing a motion to hire them. I'm the appointing authority, so I appoint people to positions with the council's approval, but I don't set their salaries. That's based on something else. So like either council motion includes that for administrators or it's in the collective bargaining agreement. As far as like the chief saying I deny his request, there's a few different issues. I mean, one, the request came after the budget requests were due, so that's why it wasn't included in the request stage. So like if it was included in the request stage of the budget and then taken out for the draft budget, then you would have seen it listed there, but we didn't get the request until after, so that's why it's not listed there at all. And as far as something being not included in the budget, I mean, it is my responsibility in conjunction with the finance director to present the budget to the council based on their parameters that they provide. So, you know, that's a factor that goes into it, which you'll see in some of the documentation that Brian provided. There's some of my explanation there. There's another email I sent after the fact that we can forward as well that provides a little bit more clarification as to where I'm coming from and the evaluation of that. But ultimately, long answer to it, maybe could have been a shorter answer, the council decides what people are paid with consideration of union contracts. In this case, doesn't apply.
with the exception of union contracts?
Well, they determine those as well when they enter the agreements.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I just heard Dave Mercer. You got 5, you got the majority, you can. That's what he always likes to say. We do it under the guidance of our city administrator.
That's
A lot
right.
of stuff.
That's right. The recommendation
Mhm.
perhaps, or yeah,
Mhm.
guidance is a good word. Okay, so I just wanted clarity about that. So it sounds like based on our discussion that we would be comfortable having this move to council. The question then is of timing. Do we do this in conjunction with our budget discussions or should we wait?
I wait until after budget discussions.
Wait
I think
till
that's
after. All right.
a good idea.
Okay, then we'll move
Because I
forward.
just got a feeling it's gonna be a long night, normally ends up being a long night
Right.
on budget nights.
Right.
And try to sit there and discuss things and people be getting tired and they start shutting down about
Everything.
8 o'clock.
Okay. All right, so what we'll do is, at the recommendation of the committee, we'll bring up the chief's concerns, salary concerns, and other items mentioned at a forthcoming council meeting, preferably after December 3rd.
Right, it could be like, there's another meeting.
I think there's one more, just on the
It could be either
17th.
that one or the first one in January.
Right, okay,
The budget gets passed on
the 3rd,
the 3rd.
yeah.
Yes.
Why do I got the 10th on my head for some?
The 10th is the deadline for the charter, so
Oh, okay.
that's just kind of to accommodate for the changing calendar every year, whenever the first Tuesday is.
Okay, so with that decision, then we have nothing else on our agenda, so I'm gonna actually, if there's any other concerns, are we good?
But just clarification on that, so we're gonna bring it to the council discussion, but not this meeting, the next one?
No, after December 3rd, so if there's Don suggested a later meeting in December or even January. So I think that's the 17th is our next meeting, after the 3rd,
Yeah.
and then, I don't know if January is, if there'll be other items in January that we're gonna have to tackle, if it's worth tackling them, but later, post December 3rd.
Okay,
Okay,
got it, thank you.
alright. Anything else?
No, that's it, I think.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah.
It looked like you were about to say.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
After meeting, I